Really, I had to remember everything. I've got my external keyboard. I've got my whole Zoom mic input,
Oh,
mixing desk. I have
wow. Wow,
everything that
you're
I
a
brought to
pro.
Europe
That's
for
awesome.
this,
Yes, yes.
except the little tripod. I have a desk
It's okay.
mount tripod. So anyway,
Look,
But
we
hey,
love this here.
works.
This is
This works. You always have a
perfect.
plan B, and that's what we admire about you. So
zip
that's
ties.
awesome. Well, sure.
So today we're excited to have Jamie Orr on the program. He is an automotive enthusiast, started out just as an enthusiast and now is a renowned professional car builder and organizer of the iconic Le Show. And he's known for his passion for Volkswagens and global car adventures. And you are coming to us today live from Germany. Is that correct?
Yeah, I tried to remember everything I needed. And as you see, I did not remember my microphone stand. So we have improvised, but I'm really happy to join you.
Yeah, and that is a Liqui-Moly, Lubra-Moly box there that we have with zip ties, and I love it. I love the improvisation. So in Germany, you're over there for an auto show. Which show was this?
It was the Essen Motor Show, which is very much tuning. It's motoring lifestyle. It's been going for decades. So, back in the 90s, 2000s, it was a lot of airbrushed fuel caps, as the Germans like to do, and a lot of just fiberglass body kits. And that's kind of gone away. And this is my first year that I've attended, because now it's a lot of manufacturers. It's almost like a little mini SEMA. So there was Skoda there displaying their electric race car. There was BYD, and then, of course, all of the KWs, the Bilsteins, all of the suspension manufacturers, wheel companies. So,
Jan?
So, Jimmy, we are very thrilled to have you. We would love to learn a little bit more also about how you became the enthusiast of VW, because what we admire about you is that your enthusiasm drove you into business, but you're still enthusiastic, right? So I would call it, you're a professional enthusiast of VW. So how that all happened?
So long story short, I grew up in Scotland, and when I moved to America, I didn't recognize any cars. I recognized the Pontiac Le Mans as an Opel Astra or Vauxhall Astra, and the Rabbit GTI as a Mark I Golf. And I didn't have a lot of money, so I bought a Mark I Golf. GTI, it was 2002. It was broken. It was cheap. And that led me to a Forum VW Vortex. And then I moved on to a different car and another car, and then I wanted some bumpers, and nobody was shipping them. So I said, okay, I will ship it myself, and every bumper got damaged. I mean, just destroyed. So I said, okay, no more. Let me just do an ocean container. And that led to that. And then I realized, okay, I can ship cars for people. And then I learned more logistics. And then I ended up working at Vanguard investment company. And that's what kind of, I worked at the dealership. I was a lot boy, salesperson, finance manager. And then from the finance manager, I went to Vanguard. That helped me buy my house and get started. And then from there, I just kept working. And then one day I realized, I can ship my own car to Europe to go to a car show there instead of going in a rental car. And then I said, okay, then I can bring my friends. And then it turned into, just keep going. And then, Volkswagen eventually recognized me and asked me to do some things. And then it turned into probably 2018 for the SEMA show, when the Mark 7 Jetta was about to be launched. I did a project, my first one for them, building a concept car, but really just a show car out of a forthcoming project or car. And we 3D printed a body kit, work wheels in Japan. They unveiled a new set of wheels on it. We had really fancy suspension. And I just threw energy, effort, money at the build, and it did really well. And then from there, I got asked more, and then COVID hit and blah, blah, blah. And here we are today.
Wow. Well, that's pretty amazing, amazing journey. Are you able to import things to the United States that normal people can't? They don't have to be antiques. Okay.
No, I only do what everyone else can.
I see. Well, because we really want the Tourer, right? And I'm sure we can find a number of people who won the ID7 Tourer. So
I can bring those.
I
can bring them. I can temporarily. Last year, to prove my electric enthusiasm, last year for my own show in my hometown in Pennsylvania, I brought a short wheelbase ID Buzz van, because there were none available for press cars. They were here for testing, but they just weren't available. And so I said, okay. And I talked to a friend and said, look, if you lend me the Buzz, I will lower it. We'll put wheels on it, custom wheels. We will send it to the SEMA show after my show. So we had the very first Buzz on display at my show. And then at the SEMA show, which was the only one. And so, yeah, we can bring them temporarily for visitors. They have to be registered in a foreign country. They cannot be sold here. So, in fact, that same show, I had the very first ID7 here, and it arrived in the US. It arrived in the container direct from the port, and it came straight to my warehouse. We had to cut it open and unload it in the loading dock. And I'd not had an ID7 before, so we had to work out how to pop the trunk because we couldn't open the doors. Yeah. So the keys are zip tied inside the front of the container, and then we had to work out how to wake it up again. And then shipping electric cars is interesting, especially once they are once they're considered used. And so I had to take the training and do all of that. So I'm now certified to ship used electric vehicles on boats and airplanes, so that we could send them back. So that's, I can't do anything that other people can't do per se. There are some manufacturer rules that sometimes we use, but yeah.
You can do things that I can't do, but not things that other importers can't do, or that other shippers can't.
Yeah, there's no magic. I mean, we're all just complying with the same regulations. The fun thing is electric is exempt. So if you bring a car under it's 21 years for emissions exemption, electric cars are exempt for that. So there's one government agency that you don't have to deal with. You still have to deal with all the others, but currently, that makes it easier to bring fun cars in.
And when you say temporarily, you mean what, 6 months or 3 months or a year?
1 year.
1 year, okay. Yeah. And so you just don't want to overstay your visa.
No. The fine is a lot of money, and the bond is quite big. So it's not. Yeah. It's not a toy. It's not something to be played with. But when it's brought for that, I mean, that's what the manufacturers do. Whenever you see on the internet, oh, this one's running around, it's under somebody's bond or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Wow. Thank you for sharing this interesting piece. So unfortunate. So we can drive maybe ID7 Tour with German license plate for a year. So, well, let's talk, Wes, if that's good enough. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, just kidding. So Jamie, you've done so many signature projects, from driving the Harlequin across the United States, or the City Golf Adventure, which has now the V6, and as you said, it's one of the loudest cars that you ever had, to painting the Atlas, the US-made Atlas in Harlequin colors, shipping it to Europe, driving it also to Ukraine for some humanitarian causes. And of course, not even mentioning the Atlas GT concept that you built. So there's so much innovation. So thank you so much for inspiring all of us to do more and to do great things that some people might consider crazy, but we love doing those things. So thank you so much for the inspiration.
That's very kind of you. Like, really, that's very sweet and kind. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh, he means this GT was. I loved what you did. I mean, it looked great. So
that was a huge project. That was.
Oh, I bet.
Kind of built by committee, because the drivetrain we went through so many different drivetrain options between the engine, the transmission, trying to work out what was viable. And then, it was so amazing working with Recaro, Black Forest Industries. I'm such a nerd. And so to be given the keys kind of to work with the factory, and then the start of the project was built in Chattanooga, and then it was transported under secrecy to my workshop. And then that was it. No cameras allowed, no talking about it. Every partner has to sign a non-disclosure, etc. So there was a lot of great companies that have never been shared for it, but many that were. But I mean, it went right down to, a very small individual company, one person, Eurocraft in New Jersey. I think it's safe to talk about this now. Came out and assisted with the wiring, because the car was born a 6-cylinder, and then we converted it to a 4-cylinder because there was, would it be a 4, a 5, or a 6? And so it was crazy. But to have all the manufacturers, the one that really got me was the thread from the Recaro seats was then they would ship a bobbin to everybody else. So the floor mats were made one-off custom by the Volkswagen floor mat manufacturer. And Black Forest Industries made the shift knob and the shift, the surround underneath it, and that same thread was used by each manufacturer so that the seats matched the thread underneath the shift knob, and it's just so nerdy. But no, that was. I hope that wasn't a once in a lifetime, but if it was, yeah, I'm pretty happy to have done that one.
And if we will put the link down below, but if you all are interested, there is a case study or there is a press release from VW from 2021 about Atlas GT that has also a lot of photos, and the photos are stunning. The blue actually is very stunning. The color of the car is so stunning. So
the color made it. We knew a year ahead, 2 years. I mean, okay, here's the insight. Cars are not built in 1 or 2 years. Cars, when you see a car, it has been in development properly for 3, 4, 5, 7 years. And a lot of these decisions were made multiple years ahead. And every manufacturer really is kind of like this. I mean, you see with Tesla Cybertruck, how it would say, oh, it'll be ready in 6 months. And it keeps going and going and going.
They meant 6 years.
Yeah, but that's also because it takes that long and it's hard to skip processes. And so we knew Kingfisher Blue would be the color. It would then be released a year and a half later to the public. So several things lived on. And we knew with the Atlas facelift, for instance, people love the cross-sport exterior. But they said, the interior doesn't match. So they wanted to look better. So I made it look as good as possible, knowing that we're not getting a 4-seater Recaro matching blue seat belts. This won't make it. But we did get a nicer cross stitch with blue in the seats to match. And so it really, you can see how the concept turns into reality. And it's kind of fascinating living through why this, I wouldn't say cost cutting, but why the reality differs from the concepts.
It's the optimization, right? Because they do have to optimize the entire supply chain. And
do you want an Atlas, a cross-sport that costs $80,000? Like, that doesn't make sense. So
it's because you're getting into the Q6, almost Q6 electric or SQ5 territory, right? So
100%. Yeah.
Awesome. So out of those adventures that you've built, this was the most recent one. But which one was the most exciting or memorable, and why? It was the case.
So, and I realize I have a lot of electric stories, so we can get to those too.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So, but okay, driving to the Arctic Ocean in a Mark V Jetta, which was a pre-production SEMA car, that was really the first big one. And on the way up, was no problem at all. On the way back down, 2 Argentine motorcyclists had left their motorbikes at the start of the Dalton Highway and rented a driver to take them up. And the car broke down. And up there's no cell phones, anything. We did have satellite messaging. But we stopped and said, hey, can we help? And the driver said, yeah, do you want to take my guess and drive south? And I said, do you need us to relay a message to the next fuel stop? She said, no, it's already, a truck has done it. It's fine. So we put them in the back of the car, all of their gear up on top, but it made the back of the car lower than the front, which we had not had for the whole drive. And so we split the fuel tank in half. So we dropped, the engine switched off, and I immediately, okay, let's get VCDS, let's scan it. And as we jumped out, we realized, oh no, there's 10 gallons of fuel on the floor behind us instantly. And we have another 100 miles to go to the next fuel stop, and there's nothing. So some people stopped over the hours, people drive by, and somebody had an RV, and they had a bread knife. So we took the bread knife, we cut the top of our fuel can open, took the fuel pump out of the fuel tank, put it through the fuel line through the floor into the back seat. We put the pump into our 5-gallon can, and it only used 2 gallons. It could only reach so far, but that was it. We drove 2 gallons and 2 gallons and 2 gallons until we got out. And so we drove 3/4 of the way on the Dalton Highway on a fuel can with the windows down so that the smell didn't kill us. So we did that. I drove Pan South America in a really lowered kind of rally style Golf 7 GTI. So that was 15,000 miles in a couple of weeks. Crossing up into Bolivia right after they had ousted their president. So we were one of the first cars once the barricades came down, never mind first foreigners. So every time we came up to a roadblock, we had to kind of decide which side they were on. And tried to stay fairly agnostic with my terrible Spanish. But yeah, beautiful countries, and there's Volkswagen enthusiasts in every single one of them. And that's what makes it fun. That's why, to me, South Africa is so wonderful. People say Germany is the home of the Volkswagen, but I think it's South Africa at this point, really. The factory down there has produced Mark 1s until 2008, 2009. So everywhere you look, there's another one. And they have the factory just got their first ID4s, European built, but the infrastructure there can't support electrification at the moment. They are still rolling brown out, so their fridges switch off every day. You'll be driving through an area and all the traffic lights will be out. So the incredible, beautiful country, wonderful people, such amazing car culture, but getting to kind of travel and see how far away realistically the infrastructure is for electrification.
Yeah.
So before we go to the electric discussion, we'd love to hear all about your Low Show, like how it started. What is the name representing? And some listeners may not have heard about the show, so tell us a little bit more about it.
Sure. Okay. So 10 years ago, the Volkswagen community, kind of aftermarket community in the US, was kind of blessed with multiple big shows throughout the year. And a lot of them, just through attrition, people moving on, whatever, kind of closed. And I always said I didn't want to do a show, but eventually I said, okay, I don't accept that we don't have a big kind of, and that's not to say that any others aren't wonderful, but I just wanted to do a show that had kind of international cars and felt a little bit like, not a museum, but to have sort of museum caliber cars. And so, the first year I rented a shopping mall, the whole thing, basically, right down the road from my house. And we had Alan McNish's Audi Le Mans car that had been the car that he broke the record for most wins. And it's just sitting in an old record shop, music store in a shopping mall. And people drove from all over. And it was a complete learning experience. I think people had fun. But for me, it was a real eye-opener for what it took. And so the next year, we outgrew the mall the first year, just through no promotion, just word of mouth, whatever. And so then I rented the downtown district of my hometown, Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And we have... Okay, Pottstown, if you picture an East Coast steel town that is now a commuter town for Philadelphia, but it's really the last one. If you go further west into the Amish rolling hills, and then Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, and then Kansas. I mean, this is, we're as far out of Philly before the trees really start. But it's where the Golden Gate Bridge was made, the steel for that. It's where the gates for the Panama Canal were made. So this was a real leading quality steel producer 100 years ago. And that industry has gone. So our high street is 6 lanes wide. So it's built on this grand scale with beautiful buildings. And the story goes, Mr. Potts wanted to do a U-turn with his horse train without having to do a 3-point turn or something. And so we have this beautiful downtown district. So I rent it. We close it. We make it a private event for the cars, but it's completely free to the public. So we end up with tens of thousands of people coming. This year we had cars registered from 23 US states and from 6 different countries. The furthest or most interesting for me in Canada was Prince Edward Island. If you have to take a ferry to get to the mainland and still drive another 1,000 miles or so, all the love in the world. We have cars from Paris, France, from Belgium, from Germany, and that's why the ID Buzz short wheelbase van was part of it. And then Volkswagen unveils new cars basically each year. So we had the Golf R20th unveiled for the US market. Last year we had the ID7, the first one publicly displayed, I believe, in the US. This year, buzzes. We had the whole ketchup thing. So just lots of fun. But it's my sales pitch for anyone listening is it's open to anybody that wants to come. Free parking, free spectator entry. We have car companies, brands that come and open up stores. So we rent empty retail space. And so, for example, Rotiform Wheels or Miltech Exhaust will come and fully decorate an entire retail store.
So it's like having a downtown, like an old downtown where you have nerd car vendors selling. That's incredible.
And every restaurant is open with special hours. and they love it
Yeah.
because they do a month's worth of business in a few days. And
Yeah.
we politely argue, because I hear that the lines for some of the pizza stores are an hour long, and they swear they're not. They're like, nobody had to wait more than 15 minutes. I'm like, no, they were so excited to wait the hour because you were so kind and so welcoming to car people. And it is Volkswagen Group only for the cars. So it's Volkswagen, Audi, Seat, Auto Union, Lamborghini, Bentley, Ducati, anything goes. But I fully welcome electric. We have not had a proper show car entered, even though each year we try to bring interesting electric cars just for my own enthusiasm that people don't get to see elsewhere.
Yeah. And so that's a good segue into electric. How did you, when is your first electric that you've driven? Was that a Volkswagen, I guess? And
so way back in the day, Volkswagen had the City Stromer. So they had Golf 2s, which were electric powered. There's a museum near me that has a Volkswagen Rabbit. And so I've always been excited about them, but they were always lead acid based. I mean, so half the weight of the car is batteries.
Volkswagen, or was this a conversion that somebody did?
There was a manufacturer. Oh boy, my brain eventually deletes information.
Yeah, sure.
No, it was with GE, if I remember correctly, and it was looking at producing them. If I remember, do not quote me on this. No, whoever's yelling at their speakers right now, I apologize.
You should upgrade your plan to get some of the cloud storage. Then you can offload.
That's the problem. It'll come back to me in 6 hours. When I'm trying to think of something else important, it'll come back right then. So no, I've always been excited, and I love other market things. And there was the Volkswagen Golf 3 Ecomatic, which was a diesel with a start-stop, but it was all mechanical based essentially. The shift knob had articulation in it. So when you push the shift knob, it pushed a switch, and then a vacuum reservoir lifted the clutch actuator on the manual transmission before you finished shifting. And so there was no clutch pedal, but it had a little second battery that ran all the electrics when the main battery was not being used or charged. And so I kind of love these, the alternative ideas. And I think we were so lucky at Volkswagen with PH. I mean, that was a golden era. And of the sort of his era when he had that really small four-wheeled sort of streamlined, almost like a recumbent bike, but enclosed car. And I really want to bring that to the show. So there's been a lot of interest from me. But
I remember that. That was the one that he was like 90 miles per gallon or something like that.
Well, there was the XL1. And that was diesel, but they had an all-electric, almost like a Twizy, the Renault Twizy. I don't know. So I've always been fascinated with all of these ideas. And I kind of want to kick someone in the shin and be like, why did you never follow through? Like you could have set the market instead of now trying to catch up. And it wasn't the right time, but you're also realizing you're not the right time or the right product right now. So like, I've always had a nerd fascination there. And then my involvement with IDs really came, let me think, there's probably 3 of them.
All right. So we've reached the end of part 1 of this conversation with Jamie, and we're going to have part 2 where we come back and talk more about electric cars specifically.
There's more electric, we promise.
Yeah.
So please subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, and follow us on BWID Talk, and of course follow Jamie on his Instagram and other social media. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.